have no regrets with how we remodeled it. We just have regrets with how we purchased it. I mean, that's all. We would just undo that.
That's all. Just we wouldn't buy it again.
We wouldn't buy this camper again.
Yep.
No.
I got a lot
All
of
of you who said we should rent a camper and not buy one.
You were right.
You were right. We were wrong.
We learned you do not buy a camper. Well, you can buy a camper in the middle of winter, but you have to make sure that it's been inside for at least 24 hours so it thaws.
And you can smell if it's moldy.
Yep.
So welcome to our Jayco Featherlight 26-foot hybrid camper. Is that right?
Sure.
It is a hybrid because the front folds out into a bed. So here's what we want to talk about today. We want to show you the official before and after pictures of how we renovated our camper because it's awesome. Like the before and after, it made a huge difference. The changes we made, painting it, putting it in a counter, pulling out the dinette.
Rebuilding the floor.
But we'll also kind of reminisce over finding out that it was completely rotten.
I'm actually really glad that you are going to be editing this because I don't want to see all that footage again.
I know, I was going back through and I'm like, oh man, that was depressing.
It was January.
Well, so let's go back. It was, yeah, the end of January we bought this camper. We had looked at a few others and we had decided that we needed something lightweight so Tom could pull it with his half-ton truck. Well, we'll get to that later. We really liked the idea of a bunk room.
Right. Because we have 4 kids, so we wanted them all to have their own cute little bunk bed.
Well, you know how it is, but at the end of the day, everyone sleeps better if they're in their own bed. And then we liked the idea of the hybrid so that the front folded out so that it kept it lighter and shorter. So in our perfect world, we found the perfect camper, we thought.
Pretty much. We drove 3.5, 4 hours to go get it. So yeah, no, we thought, actually we drove that twice.
Yeah.
We thought that, yeah, this was the camper.
And so we went down and we bought it. It was like an ice storm. Tom ended up having to install the, what's it called?
Distribution hitch in the parking lot.
And it was like, I don't know, 8 degrees out and windy and ice cold that day. But we got it back home and we were really excited. Our plan when we got it was to put in new flooring and then to paint and just kind of update some of the fixtures and only cosmetic stuff was our thought.
Yep.
But we were about 2 minutes into peeling up the old linoleum and found out
a whole lot of mold was hiding underneath for us. Oh, that's gross.
Is it like moldy on the backside?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Oh yeah, that smell. Yeah, you can see the mold.
Yep. Yeah, she smells. Alright, so we just pulled the linoleum up and we knew there was a couple little like spongy spots and we can instantly smell the mold. So I'm going to take out the dinette and the cabinet, that cabinet, and get all this ripped out of here because it smells pretty bad. And so initially we got all the linoleum peeled up and we really thought it was just in that top layer of plywood on the floor, and so at first it didn't seem too bad. I was like, well, this stinks that we have to replace all of this plywood. Well, Dawn, would you like to change the layout of our camper now?
I maybe have some ideas.
Alright, I kind of figured you were going to.
Because it's so nice and open now, right?
Well, and these
Then Tom got into it a little bit more.
Found out, so it's a lightweight camper, it's a wood frame, so it's thin plywood, 1x1s or 2x2s, foaming insulation between, and then a thin sheet of plywood on top, and it's all like laminated together. This under here is a sill frame that completely disintegrated and was gone when I took it apart. There's nothing holding that corner of the camper up. So we peeled everything apart. I'm deciding to not be really upset about this, which I normally would be, as you can attest. I'm gonna take this opportunity to make this the sweetest little camper ever.
Alright, I like it.
Tore it down to literally the ground. Instead of us sitting here, we would be standing on the ground beneath us. I was able to
rebuild and put in new sheeting, new floor joists that go under the side edges, all new foam. Everything got glued with construction glue and glue for the foam. Set the camper back down onto the new floor, screwed everything, glued everything, put lag bolts in through my new joists into the trailer frame.
And so the only good thing that came from that, once Tom completely rebuilt it all, was that we had kind of a blank slate with how, I'm trying to find the silver lining here.
Dawn wanted to change the layout of the camper immediately. We talked about painting and redoing finishes, but in Dawn's heart, deep down inside, she wanted to change the layout.
Just from my experience with camping, I always thought dinettes were not practical and they didn't get used well and they were just kind of awkward. So from the get-go, I wanted to put a counter in, but we couldn't necessarily justify losing all that storage space until the whole floor was rotten and Tom pulled everything out. And you didn't want to put the dinette back in then.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, and the thing is, once you start disassembling a camper, you realize none of it is actual, like, nice wood. It's all 1/8" paneling boards with little bitty, like, tack bracing behind. Like, it's not, like, nice furniture you take in and out easily.
And we understand it's that way to be light.
Right, for lightweight, yep.
Yeah. So we decided to put our butcher block counter in. All right, well, Tom just brought in the butcher block countertop that we're gonna have in here, and it looks so cool. So we're excited. He's pretending to work right now. It's very convincing, isn't it?
I'm trying to work.
Yeah. And now that we've been camping for a little while, what do you think of it?
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it functions really well, and it kept this middle section of the camper nice and open, which we also came to find out would be a benefit because when it is windy or noisy or rainy or anything outside besides a perfect still summer night, when we have the bed folded out, it is so loud. So the first night we camped, we found a great campground in Texas, and it was fine. Neither of us slept super great.
Right.
The second night we were on Padre Island in Texas. We just really wanted to get to the beach and to the ocean. And so we headed down to Corpus Christi, and I'm looking at the map and I'm like, there are campgrounds on Padre Island that are like right on the ocean. Wouldn't that be cool? And we're like, it could go one of two ways. It could be really stinking awesome to be like right on the beach, or it could be like the worst idea ever. So we got there and it was pretty cool. Well, cool in the fact that we were like right by the beach.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dawn, it was a parking lot with electric hookups and water.
Yeah,
but you're right, it's right on the beach, right? Yeah. So that part's cool, but
so privacy-wise, that wasn't good. But just
no trees, like, no shade. But I mean, it's South Texas. You're not gonna get that anyway.
And it was so windy. We wondered if the whole camper was gonna blow over.
Yeah, first it was like probably 11 o'clock when I finally called it. I was like, Dawn, we gotta get up and close this thing because I feel like if not, we're gonna wake up and be looking at the sun in the morning because the
Tom and I would be detached.
The tarp's gonna be gone.
The rest of the camper. And so that night then we folded up the bed section and we just put the mattress down on the floor, which now that fits since we had gotten rid of the dinette. And then from that night on, we've always just slept with the mattress on the floor, which is fine. I mean, we have plenty of space for it and the kids are back in their bunk room. So in hindsight, we wouldn't choose a hybrid again. It's good because it's lightweight, but now we also had that problem of blowing the tranny on Tom's truck while we were pulling it. Yeah, so you put the transmission, an aftermarket transmission cooler on to protect the transmission.
To protect it, not to break it, to protect it.
So all of a sudden we're just driving and Tom's like, the transmission's slipping, and he pulls over. We found like a driveway approach, so the safest place we could find on a road with no shoulders. So Tom pulls over right away. Unbeknownst to us, there was an RV following us, and they were from Minnesota. And so luckily they pulled over right away as well to make sure that everything was okay. And so the whole side of the truck and the camper was coated with transmission.
Like coated, like it was running down the side of the truck.
And so Tom was able to look at it. You saw pretty quickly what had happened, that line had blown off. Yeah,
and pretty quickly my mood went.
Yeah. So we were 37 miles from Cotulla, which was the next town. And so finally, after like an hour of trying to figure out what we could do, the couple was like, we can go up ahead to Cotulla, get the transmission fluid that you need, and bring it back.
Which, I mean, I complained about the truck, but in hindsight, it wasn't the truck's fault. I may have installed a transmission cooler and one of the lines blew off of it, which emptied all the transmission fluid like that. And as soon as that happened, the tranny overheats, burns everything inside it, and it's garbage. So if you have a half-ton truck, I guess I wouldn't be afraid of one of these.
It depends where you're going. Like in the hills, we knew it was really working the truck. And we had, before we had the transmissions problems, we had already said, yeah, when we get back home, we're probably gonna look at upgrading it.
Yeah, so. And that was mostly because of like the suspension and steering and handling. So we have a distribution hitch which handles like leveling everything out really well. But as far as like braking and cornering, the camper really kind of is the boss when you're in a half-ton vehicle.
Yeah, and that made you nervous on long trips.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan.
If you're going close by, if you're always sticking, you know, 1 or 2 hours away from home, I think it would be fine. But for long trips, mountainy areas, the truck felt undersized to us. Overall, I love camping. It has been awesome. We've taken it up to Tom's sister's house. You know, we had some other trips planned, but that wasn't able to happen. So we just went up to with his family for the weekend. We're gonna go up again this weekend, and that's been awesome. Just feeling like we have that flexibility, and it functions well. It's plenty big enough. I have a video about how we pack it, which I can link to down below. We took out a lot of storage, but it still felt like we have plenty.
We've still never filled all the cabinets ever.
Yeah, and so no worries about storage. And we feel like weight-wise, we might have come out a little bit heavier after our renovations. Yeah. Maybe just a little bit, but it was fully worth it. And between putting in this dresser where that big cabinet was and then putting in the counter, they felt like really good changes, and they've made it even more functional, at least in my opinion. It's been really awesome. I have no regrets with how we remodeled it. We just have regrets with how we purchased it. I mean, that's all. We would just undo that.
That's all. Just we wouldn't buy it again.
We wouldn't buy this camper again. No. And you know, we learned a lot through this process. And
a lot of camper maintenance stuff too that I never even thought about.
Yeah, so it's been a learning curve, but it's been good. So probably what made the biggest difference, and if you have a camper that you want to update, you won't even have to go as far as pulling out cabinetry and stuff, just painting it white if you have a wood, you know, finished camper. Do you want to show you what we've been up to? We've gotten a lot of priming done, so all of the priming is getting pretty close. Let's show everything that we've primed so far. So,
everything.
We got all of the cabinets done, the walls done, the little kitchen area done. We didn't do over here yet because we have something else we're gonna do there, but all of this is primed. So this is one coat of the Zinsser coverall primer. It's meant to go over like cabinets and even wallpaper.
Yes.
The wallpaper on campers is like behind everything, so you don't take it off, you just paint over it from everything that we've researched, right?
And I was gonna pull the border, but I started pulling the border in one section and all the sticky stuff stayed behind. So I put it back on and said we're just gonna prime over everything.
Yep.
So we're painting over it all.
We used 1 gallon of primer and 1 gallon. This whole camper we did in one. Tom and I had a bet. I'm like, I bet we could do it all.
There's no way. There's
1 gallon of white paint. And so we put on 1 layer of primer and then 2 to 3 layers of white paint. It is very gratifying though when you go to put the paint on, isn't it?
Well, the first coat was not, the primer was not very gratifying.
No.
This totally is.
Because the primer just kind of makes it look worse, but this is like, oh, I can start to see it coming together.
I think it might look good.
It might look good, yeah. It took time, it was tedious.
It took a while, yeah.
All the painting we're doing is purely cosmetic.
But we started it, so we can't stop now.
We can't turn around now, but I was adding it up. We have about 10 hours just getting it to this point. So it's been
have to do 3 coats.
It's taking 3 coats. It's really tedious and time consuming. And we're like, what are we doing? We're not as young as we used to be.
Kids aren't gonna care. Yeah, no, we're definitely not as young.
But that made the biggest difference of all, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no,
next to opening up the dinette area. And I think what was good too, what we did was we did the same color on the walls as on the cabinetry. So that really cut down on like edging. Like we were, like everything was going the same color and that made it a lot easier. And then the base cabinet, we did that charcoal color, which I love. I'll put that color down below too. We were also talking about if we should keep this like cushion
Save
there.
my forehead.
And I'm like, I kind of feel like we need that because, you know, once in a while Tom, he's just tall, so he tends to bonk his head.
Like daily, like every single day.
So we might have to recover that and keep that there.
Maybe we'll embroider it with something like a warning for me.
Like duck, Tom.
Look out, Tom.
All right, here is the final, well, kind of final product.
I think we should leave it that raw wood look. I like. I'm digging the wood. I'm
Kind of adds some nice character and makes it feel homey.
I think if we painted it white, it would just kind of, I don't know,
blend
in with the walls.
And no one would fully appreciate all the hard work you just put into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we also we painted some mountains back in the kids' bunk area, which was totally unnecessary, but that was fun. Adeline loves a good craft project. She's a girl after my own heart. So we're gonna paint some mountains in 3 different shades. In hindsight, we probably would have made our colors a little bit lighter to start out with, but I still think it's looking pretty cool. And then I also might have sponge painted the bathroom, which was, it was fun. It didn't hardly take any time because it's so small. And in the bathroom, we didn't really have to make, I don't know that we made any changes. We took down like some towel rings.
You got rid of the medicine cabinet.
So I don't know what, gosh, budget wise, if we took out what it cost to rebuild stuff, if we just looked at putting in the vinyl plank flooring, butcher block, and paint, I mean, we're probably under $500-ish for the makeover.
Yeah, are you talking flooring too?
Yeah, I think the flooring was a couple $100.
Yep.
Vinyl plank flooring, we love it. Waterproof. And then the butcher block counter was $200. And then $100 in paint and a few accessories. So really, I think you could make a big difference on a camper if you have a little bit of time. And we did it over the winter, which was nice. If you have some time to put into it, it makes a gigantic difference. And you know, and if you're gonna chalk paint your sofa in your camper, it still can be done. Water down the chalk paint. That's what I did wrong. That was my fatal error. Tom would not let you, he won't let me chalk paint anything ever again, but it can be done if you do it properly. I just didn't take the time to do it right. So we're just gonna cover that up. All right, well, that is our camper makeover. We'd love to know, have you ever made over a camper, or do you have ideas for it? Are you thinking about camping now that life's a little different these days? Yep. I mean, we're glad we have it, definitely.
Do you like this one? Because if you do, this one will be for sale in 2 weeks.
We might be selling this and getting a different camper.
Yeah, when Dawn says might be, that means Tom already made the decision. It's going for sale.
So yeah, we'll let you know. All right, well, thanks for coming along for our camper transformation. If you haven't done so already, we hope you subscribe. We're always up to some kind of project, and we love talking about simple living too. So
we're always up to like 15 projects.
Yeah, we have a deck to get going back.
We don't want. We gotta go. We don't need to list them all off. There's a lot. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.